Have you ever felt like your life is rehearsed? Not just busy, but scripted. Like every day you're playing a role you never auditioned for. Yet somehow, you've memorized every line. You smile when you're supposed to. You nod when expected. And in the quietest moments, a whisper returns. Is this who I really am? Carl Jung believed that question wasn't just personal, it was universal. You see, most of us aren't living our lives. We're living the lives others prepared for us. Parents, teachers, friends, bosses. We became who they needed, not who we were. And to survive that, we built something. A mask. A beautifully crafted version of ourselves. Polished, pleasing, acceptable. Jung called it the persona, a necessary disguise we wear to move through society. But here's the brutal truth. What starts as protection can become a prison. Act 1. How the persona is born. From the moment we're children, we are taught what earns love and what earns punishment. We're praised for being polite, scolded for being loud, rewarded for obedience, punished for rebellion. We adapt quickly, and over time, we shape a version of ourselves based on what gets approval, not what feels true. You're taught, don't cry, it's weak. Don't speak up, it's rude. Don't stand out, it's risky. So you mold yourself. You adapt to fit classrooms, dinner tables, first jobs, social circles, until the mask no longer feels like a choice. It feels like you. Act 2. When the mask takes over. Ask yourself, have you ever held back your real thoughts just to avoid rocking the boat? Smiled when inside you were breaking? Agreed just to be liked? That's not diplomacy. That's persona taking control. And the danger? You can wear the mask for so long that one day, you forget it's a mask. You walk into rooms already edited. You say what's acceptable, not what's real. You perform life instead of living it. And worse, you get so used to being loved for the mask that you fear no one could ever love the real you. Act 3. The cost of persona loyalty. Living only through the persona feels safe. But deep down, it creates a quiet kind of death. You laugh at things you don't find funny. You chase goals you never chose. You measure your worth in applause instead of alignment. And at night, when the world stops talking, you feel it, the quiet ache, the hollow success, the question with no answer. Is this all there is? Jung warned that over-identification with the persona leads to fragmentation. Your soul gets sliced into pieces, one for your job, one for your parents, one for your followers. But nowhere do you exist whole. Act 4. Persona is not the enemy until it is. Now let's be clear. The persona isn't evil. It helps us navigate social life. Without it, we couldn't function at work, in public, or online. But the danger begins when we believe it's all we are. Think of it like armor. Useful in battle, deadly if you never take it off. Because armor protects you from others, but it also numbs you to yourself. You can't feel fully. You can't connect deeply. You can't grow truthfully. Act 5. The first step, seeing the mask. So what now? It starts with noticing. Begin here. Where in your life are you performing? When do you speak for approval, not from truth? What parts of you shrink just to make others comfortable? Write it down. This is your persona map. Identify the versions of yourself that show up at work, in family, online. Then ask, which of these is actually me? Which is costume? This exercise won't remove the mask overnight, but it will give you what Jung said is the foundation of all healing, awareness. Because the moment you see the persona as separate from you, you reclaim the choice to remove it. The journey back to yourself begins with a question: whose life am I really living? Most people avoid asking. They cling to their masks, hoping the applause will be enough. But it never is. You came here for more, for truth, for depth, for real. And that means we must go deeper. Because beneath the persona lurks the part of you you've hidden, avoided, buried. In segment 2, we step into that shadow, not to fear it, but to reclaim it. Are you ready? Now that you've seen the mask, what lies behind it? What if I told you that the parts of you you've disowned, your anger, fear, envy, sadness, they didn't disappear. They simply went into hiding. Not gone, just waiting. This is what Carl Jung called the shadow, the forgotten side of the psyche. But here's the paradox. The shadow isn't just where your bad parts go. It's also where your power hides. Act 1. What is the shadow really? Let's be clear. The shadow is not evil. It's not your worst self. It's your denied self. It holds the anger you suppressed to stay nice, the boldness you buried to fit in, the pain you swallowed to avoid judgment, the joy you abandoned to be taken seriously. All the pieces of you the world told you were too much, too weird, or not enough. You locked them away. Not because you're weak, but because you were trying to survive. And that's okay. But survival isn't the goal anymore. Wholeness is. Act 2. How the shadow controls you without you knowing. Here's where it gets dangerous. What you suppress doesn't stay silent. It leaks. In sudden outbursts of rage you can't explain. In envy you feel toward people doing what you've denied yourself. In passive-aggressive jabs, depression, addictions, sabotaged relationships. These aren't random. They're signals. Shadow is trying to break through. But because you've ignored it for so long, it erupts. Messy, unpredictable, painful. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Act 3. Why we fear the shadow, and why that's a mistake. Most people avoid their shadow because they think, if I look too deep, I won't like what I find. But the opposite is true. When you finally meet your shadow, you find a different kind of pain. Not evil, but grief. Grief for the child who learned to shrink. Grief for the rage you never expressed. Grief for the self you abandoned to be accepted. But through that grief, something else appears, compassion. You realize you didn't bury these parts to be fake. You did it to be loved. Now it's time to love yourself enough to bring them back. Act 4. Practical shadow work. The integration begins. Here's how you begin. Step 1. Shadow spotting. Think of a recent moment that triggered you. Something that made you angry, jealous, defensive. Ask, what exactly about that moment bothered me? What was I afraid it revealed about me? Example, you feel resentment toward a confident coworker. Shadow message, you've repressed your own desire to speak up. Step 2. Reverse the projection. Jung said we often project our shadow onto others. Who do you secretly envy? Who do you judge harshly? That's your shadow speaking. Not always because you hate them, but because they've embodied something you've denied in yourself. Step 3. Dialogue with the shadow. Try this simple prompt. Dear part of me that I've rejected, I'm ready to listen. Let it speak. No editing, no fixing, just witness. Act 5. What lives in the shadow that you actually need? Here's the twist most miss. The shadow isn't just what you don't like. It's what you've disowned, and much of it is good. The creativity you shut down to be practical. The sensuality you buried to be pure. The assertiveness you denied to be nice. The playfulness you suppressed to seem mature. These are not flaws. They're fuel. You don't just reclaim broken parts. You reclaim potential. Jung believed that your greatness doesn't lie in being perfectly light. It lies in becoming whole. That means honoring the dark without letting it rule you. Act 6. The transformation begins. As you integrate your shadow, you stop overreacting. You respond instead of explode. You understand instead of judge. You reclaim your depth because nothing in you is alien anymore. You're no longer the angry one, or the sad one, or the fake happy one. You're simply you. Not perfect, but real, complete, integrated. This is not healing as escape. It's healing as ownership. Most people never meet their shadow. They die wearing masks, wondering why life never felt quite right. But not you. You're here. You've chosen to see, to feel, to reclaim. And now, there's more to unlock. Because beneath the persona and beyond the shadow lies the architect of your soul, your archetypes. They've shaped your choices, dreams, instincts, without you even knowing. In segment 3, we'll step into the collective unconscious and discover how ancient patterns influence your life today. Let's continue. So far, we've uncovered the mask and faced what you've hidden behind it. But there's something deeper still. Beneath your thoughts, beneath your personality, there are forces shaping you from the inside before you even realize it. Carl Jung called these archetypes, universal patterns that live in the collective unconscious, the inherited psychic blueprint shared by all human beings. And whether you know it or not, they are writing your story. Right now, Act 1, the collective unconscious, the mind beneath the mind. Imagine the unconscious mind as an ocean. Your personal memories, fears, and dreams float near the surface. But dive deeper, and you'll find an ancient current. That's the collective unconscious, a storehouse of symbols, instincts, and stories shared across generations. You didn't invent these patterns. You inherited them. They appear in myths, fairy tales, religions, films, your own dreams and behavior. You're not just reacting to life. You're following scripts older than language. Act 2. What are archetypes, really? Jung described archetypes as primordial images, psychic skeletons around which we build identity. They're not specific people or beliefs. They're patterns. Let's meet some of the most powerful ones. The hero faces danger, overcomes adversity, seeks transformation. The caregiver nurtures, sacrifices, protects. The rebel breaks rules, resists conformity, challenges the system. The sage seeks truth, knowledge, inner clarity. The lover craves intimacy, passion, beauty. The creator builds, imagines, innovates. The jester brings joy, lightness, truth through humor. These archetypes are not fantasy. They live within you. You felt them stir in your choices, conflicts, dreams. Act 3. Archetypes in action. How they shape your life. Think about your life right now. Are you striving, grinding, conquering? That's hero energy. Are you always helping others, but neglecting yourself? That's caregiver overload. Are you drawn to revolution, constantly questioning rules? Rebel in charge. Do you overthink? Retreat to books, theories? That's the sage's shadow, wisdom without embodiment. These patterns offer strength, but if unbalanced, they imprison. You start to over-identify with a single role. Neglect your wholeness. Collapse under the weight of archetypal expectation. Act 4. The trap of archetypal possession. Here's the danger. When one archetype dominates, it hijacks your identity. You don't use it, it uses you. The hero becomes obsessed with battle, loses peace. The caregiver becomes a martyr, loses boundaries. The rebel becomes destructive, loses direction. The lover loses self in the pursuit of others. You're not meant to be ruled by any one pattern. You're meant to balance them, to flow between them, like a conductor of your inner orchestra. Act 5. Archetype mapping, a tool for self-mastery. Here's how to begin reclaiming your story. Step 1. Identify your dominant archetypes. Ask, who have I been lately? What role do I keep falling into? Example, you always rescue people? Caregiver, constantly pushing limits? Rebel, always fixing things for others, but not yourself? Maybe a hero-savior blend. Step 2. Spot what's missing. Ask, what qualities do I admire, but rarely express? What behaviors do I reject in others, and why? These may be your neglected archetypes. Reclaim them. Step 3. Reflect and rebalance. Journaling prompt. When did each archetype show up today? Who dominated? Who got silenced? You don't need perfection. You need awareness. From there, you regain your choice. Act 6. Archetypes in dreams and culture. Pay attention to what movies you love. What books stick with you? What dreams keep repeating? They're all archetypal messages. If you dream of being chased, you may be avoiding an inner rebel. If you always play the helper, you may be dreaming of the sage who can guide you back to yourself. The more you explore these symbols, the more you learn about the secret authors of your behavior. Act 7. Integrating archetypes, becoming the author. Once you see the patterns, you can work with them consciously. You don't suppress your hero, you guide it. You don't ignore your lover, you let it dance beside your sage. You don't silence your rebel, you give it direction. This is the path of the individuated self, not one who denies the patterns, but one who chooses how they show up. You are not a single story. You are a library of archetypes. When you know the cast, you can write your own script. Most people never meet their archetypes. They repeat inherited roles, live other people's lives, and wonder why nothing ever feels fully theirs. But now, you've opened the door to a deeper intelligence. Your task is not to destroy the patterns, but to integrate them, balance, harmonize, choose. And in our final segment, we go deeper still, to the self, the totality of you, not just persona, not just shadow, not just archetypes, all of it, the complete, authentic soul awake. You've taken off the mask, you've faced the shadow, you've uncovered the archetypes that shaped your choices. But all of that was just preparation. Now we arrive at the center. Carl Jung called it the self, the wholeness that lives beyond parts. The you that was always there, but buried beneath fear, performance, and patterns. This is the final step, and it changes everything. Act 1. What is the self? Jung's self is not the ego. It's not the voice in your head. It's not your preferences, your job title, or your personality type. The self is the totality of who you are. All of it. The persona you show, the shadow you hide, the archetypes you carry. the consciousness that holds them all. It is your soul's blueprint. And individuation, the path to the self, isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been. Act 2. The cost of forgetting the self. When you live only through persona, you please others, but betray yourself. When you avoid the shadow, you avoid depth, intimacy, and growth. When you're ruled by archetypes, you act out roles, but miss reality. And in time, this creates a psychic wound. You feel fake, lost, tired, detached from your own life. You become a stranger to yourself. Jung saw this every day in his patients. People who had successful lives, but felt empty, angry, numb. The missing piece wasn't success. It was self. Act 3. What individuation looks like in real life. Individuation isn't mystical. It's practical. It's daily. It looks like saying no to things that betray your values, speaking truths you once hid, facing emotions you once buried, letting go of inherited scripts. It's making space for silence, so your true voice can return. It's finding that inner stillness that says, "This is me. I remember now." It's not about fixing yourself. It's about becoming more you. Act 4. How to start the individuation process. Begin with these daily practices. 1. Radical self-honesty. Ask, where am I pretending? What am I avoiding? Who am I when no one's watching? 2. Inner dialogue. Journal as your persona, then as your shadow, then as your sage or rebel. Let them speak to each other. 3. Dream tracking. Keep a notebook by your bed. Write what you remember, no matter how small. Dreams are your unconscious speaking, and sometimes it's the self-knocking. 4. Realignment check-ins. Every week, ask, what did I do this week that was true? Where did I betray myself? What part of me wants to be seen? Act 5. Resistance and the courage to continue. This path will be hard. You'll feel exposed. You'll want to retreat. You'll face parts of yourself that hurt to see. But this is the cost of freedom. True freedom. Not freedom to do anything, but the freedom to be you without apology, without mask, without fear. And this kind of freedom changes everything. Your relationships deepen. Your creativity awakens. Your peace increases, because nothing inside you is being exiled anymore. Act 6. Living from the self. As you live from the self, your decisions become quieter, but more powerful. Your presence becomes more magnetic. You stop needing to impress. You start choosing with clarity. You find joy in solitude, connection without performance, purpose without pressure. You no longer live to survive your story. You live to write it. So I ask you, now that you've come this far, are you ready to stop performing and start being? Are you ready to become your own author? Because that's what individuation truly is, a return to wholeness, a reunion with yourself, the end of fragmentation and the beginning of sovereignty. Comment below, I choose to live from myself. Let it be your first public step. This isn't the end of the journey. It's the first page of the life you were meant to live. Keep watching, subscribe, reflect, continue. Your soul has waited long enough.